What up, guys? Your boy Quake, and 50 Cent waits until your album sales to finally diss you, because this is the first time in a long time that 50 Cent has addressed Rick Ross directly on his Instagram page. For those that don't know, 50 and Ross have been beefing for ages, but Ross released a new album called Set in Stone, and the album hasn't really been performing that well. From his 20th anniversary tour to his book, now to his album, none of those things are performing well at all. And 50 decided to wait to diss him until the first week's sales came out. So let's go over the 50 Cent posts on Instagram. He first started out by posting his famous meme that's from the ABC interview when he dropped his Diddy documentary, where he's smiling. He's got like a grin on his face, basically laughing. He posted that, and in the caption he said, "I just saw your record sales, LOL 2000 WTF." Then he continued it on, and he posted another, and this is a video of a guy explaining Rick Ross's album and how it's performed. And in the caption, he said, "Yo, guy had 20 features on it and it didn't help. All right, now pack it up. It's over, officer. Get your bum juice and your wings and get the F out of here, LOL." He continued that, and then he has a photo of him doing the DoorDash commercial where he's eating popcorn. And he said in the caption, "So when your tickets don't sell and your album don't sell, what do? Promote car shows and sell chicken wings, LOL." So he's obviously talking about Rick Ross's car shows. He's talking about his Wingstop stuff that he has. And he's, referring to his Port of Miami 20th anniversary tour, which I talked about a while ago, struggling to sell tickets. He was struggling to sell tickets even in his own city of Miami, which is crazy, because usually if an artist struggles to sell tickets like somewhere where he's not from, it's far away from his, like for example, 50 being from New York, when he did his Final Lap tour, he didn't sell out in Florida because he's not from there. Obviously, that's more of a Rick Ross fan base. That's more of Kodak Black, whoever's from Florida, artists like that. He sold like 85% to 90% of his tickets. Versus in New York, he sold out so quickly, he had to add an actual date on his tour. So it was like 3 nights in New York. I think 2 nights, and then he added one like an area close by. But yeah, when the artist is from that area, usually they end up selling out that spot because, hey, I'm from here. I've built a fan base here. I'm loyal to this place. I mention this place all the time in my music. It makes sense. But Ross was struggling to sell, and this venue only had like 3,000 capacity, so it wasn't really, really huge. And he struggled to sell that. He sold only like 40% of tickets, which is crazy. So that's what he's referring to here. And then he posted another video, and this is him on Ari Melber's show. And on there, Ross says basically his album's the bomb. Like it's the greatest thing ever. Like how people say it's fire, it's the bomb. 50 then in the caption said, "That ish was a firecracker. Only friends and family got it. LOL. Check out my channel." And that was the final post from 50. Obviously, he's having a field day with this album not performing well. However, I want to make things clear. 50 said the album sold 2,000 copies. The numbers that are coming in are that he's going to sell anywhere from 20 to 26,000 copies the first week. So I don't know where 50's getting the 2,000 copies. Maybe he's getting the physical CDs. And if he's thinking of physical CDs, I'm going to tell you, 50, you're very, very old school, because physical CDs don't really sell. It's rare that any artist can sell a physical CD anymore. They'll have to sell vinyls, usually is what the route that goes. Like Taylor Swift sells vinyls. Adele, there's like artists, like pop artists, they'll sell vinyls, but physical CDs don't really sell that much. It's rare to get an artist that sells physical CDs. And I don't think they count album bundles with merch anymore, because they used to do that as a way to try to boost sales. But hey, if you buy a hoodie, you get the album as well, and that counts as an album sale. I think they stopped that. I'm not 100% sure. But if he's referring to physical CD sales, who cares? Physical CD sales, CDs just don't sell anymore, so that doesn't really matter to me. But continuing on, after all those posts, Ross decided to respond, and he didn't respond directly. He went on his Instagram stories like he does, and I'm going to play an onslaught of videos of him. And he basically just says throughout these videos that, hey, forget the sales. Just check out the music. Is it good or is it not? Who cares if it sells or if it doesn't sell? Just check out the music. So check out these videos.
Speaking to the true hip-hop lovers, never get caught up in the propaganda and the fake bot numbers. Go to the product. Test the dope. How amazing is the music. Ricky Rose Set in Stone, the album of the year. It's out now. Everybody that's posting, downloading, streaming. Oh man, it's a beautiful thing. That nigga say bots. Niggas say niggas commenting on a classic album with no posts. Who cares? I don't give a fuck. As long as they spending money. Rose putting the dope music out. That's who fight my battles with the bots and all of that shit. Fuck all that. Y'all do that. As a hustler, the hustler I am. Listen, ain't nothing wrong with trying new dope. You wasn't satisfied with the other dope that was in the trap, that's cool. We open! We open! That's how the Miami Dope Boys did it. In the Matchbox, out there in the city on 15th. Big Sonny, what it do? Gigavelli, what it do? Ricky Rose, this for the big dreamers. Don't never come to the table with premeditated hate.
And there you have it. Ross is trying, I already mentioned this of him trying to get ahead of his album flopping by saying his label already paid him money for it, so he doesn't care how it sells. I knew he was going to get ahead of that and be like, okay, let me tell them that I already made money off this. I could care less how it performs. Now, I'm going to tell you how I feel about this whole thing, right? I've said this before. I don't care what an artist that's past his prime sells anymore. I could care less because these guys, like Ross, came out in 2006, right? He's been in the game for literally 20 years. At this point, most artists during their 20-year stretch don't sell anymore. If they do, it's like a fraction of what they used to sell. And that's for every artist. That's been true for Eminem. Eminem went from selling 1 million, 1.3 million, 1.76 on the Marshall Mathers LP. Eminem Show 1.3, then went down to like 700,000. Then, it fluctuated around like 700. Like his average sales was anywhere from 800 to 600,000. Actually, you could say 800 to 900,000, somewhere around there, like a little bit higher than that. But yeah, you get my point. Now, when he dropped The Death of Slim Shady, he did about 280,000. Now, that's not a flop by any means. 280,000 copies first week is spectacular. That's amazing in today's climate. That's like you're basically selling 1 million copies, especially for an artist that's been out since 1999, right? But he's not selling what he used to sell. That doesn't mean that, the music's bad. That doesn't mean that he fell off. It's just artists just aren't selling what they used to sell, period. So especially an artist that's past their prime, like in their prime, what did they do? And William Roberts, a.k.a. Rick Ross, never really sold albums anyways. His best was like 200,000 first week. And this is in 2010 with, I think, Teflon Don. I think they did that numbers. So he's never really sold crazy first week. He's never really, had a huge impact in music when he dropped like music and it's just like everybody's buying, everybody's going crazy. He was never that type of artist. But with this, the way I look at it is I could care less about the album sales. And Ross is right. I hate to admit this and say this, but just check out the music. If we're looking at album sales, we look at the newer artists if you want to and say, hey, this artist is in his prime. What is he selling? Okay, I can understand looking at that. But these guys who are past their prime, like T.I., who did 30,000 first week, which is, I think, great numbers for an artist that's been out since 2004. Actually, technically 2001 with his I'm Serious album, but in terms of mainstream, 2003 with trap music, I think it was, or urban legend, one of those two. So these artists have been around for a long time. The only reason why Rick Ross deserves to be clowned for this is because he was disrespecting Drake and saying that Drake's music ain't impact and nobody cares when Iceman has gone platinum already. It's at 1.2 million already. And it was at number one for like 4 weeks. It actually forced Ross to push his album 1 month. Because if he would have released his album the first week and Drake was still number one, like in his 5th week, that would have looked terrible for him. So the reason why Ross deserves to be clowned is because he talks a lot of shit. And then he doesn't back it up with sales or anything. He's never backed it up, by the way. I don't get where this notion comes that when 50 and Ross were beefing, Ross was this dominant artist and was killing it. Yeah, he had a couple hit records here and there during that time, but he wasn't doing insane numbers. Like, he never matched 50 sales. He never was the top dominant artist that year. So, this guy talks a lot of smack, but never backs it up. Never. So that's why he deserves to get clowned. Not because of the sales, but because he's the type of person that talks so much smack that, look, Like Drake outdid this guy tenfold. Now I want to talk about 50. And this is, listen, I'm the biggest 50 fan. Y'all know me. I get comments, so you're dick riding all the time. You're this, you're that. All you do is side with 50. But here's a part where I'm not being biased. But this is not going to get out there. People are not going to watch this. They're not going to be like, oh, Quake was neutral in this, because this is not the clips that people refer to whenever they roast me for being on 50's side all the time and saying I'm a D-rider and all this stuff. Here's the reality. 50 is scared to release an album. That's why he hasn't dropped an album in a long time. He's scared of how the album's going to perform. Now, before 50 Cent, in hip-hop, now I was young, right, before 50 came out, in 2003. When 50 came out in 2003, I was 7 years old, going on 8 years old. Very young. So I have no idea about before 50 that well. I knew of Eminem a little bit, but other than that, didn't really know much. But before 50, a lot of people say, in interviews, I can actually look at this from the 90s with Tupac, Nas, Jay-Z, anybody who was in the 90s that was popping to Eminem. Before 50, artists would say, oh, my album went gold. My album went platinum, man. I'm out here, I went platinum. People were going crazy over that. My album went gold. I was going, they were going crazy for that. Oh, my album went double platinum. They didn't mention first week sales until 50 got in the game and was like, look, I have the largest debut in hip-hop album of all time, 872,000 sold within 5 days. And then he started bragging about first week sales. And then The Masker does 1,140,000 within 4 days. It's the fastest selling album from a black artist in music history since SoundScan started counting in 1991. So, of course, 50 is going to brag about first week sales and just overall sales. But he's the one that introduced that into hip-hop. And just even in the music industry, period now, even in all genres, they look at first week sales. He's the one that made that cool. And as the years have gone on, it's the reason why he's not releasing music. And I hate to say it, I'm a huge 50 fan, but let's be honest. Let's be 100% honest. 50 is scared that if he was to drop an album, it would flop. Now, what does a flop look like for artists that are way past their prime? For an artist that hasn't released music in a long time. What is a flop? I think for 50, if he were to do anything under 30,000 copies the first week, is a complete flop. I think if he did anywhere from 50 to 70,000 copies, that's good. And then if he did anything above 70,000 copies to even 100, 120,000, which I don't think he would ever do, that's very, very, very good. Like, he did amazing. He succeeded. Now, Ross took 3 months to promote his album. So give 50 the same amount of time. T.I., it took him about 6 months, 7 months to promote his album. Actually, 6 months, because he dropped his first single in January, and then he dropped the album end of June. So he took 6 months to promote his album, which I think was too long. I think that's why it kind of affected his first week sales, and just overall, I think he dragged out trying to push that single, the first single, Let Him Know, way too long. But give 53 months to promote an album. If 50 is solely focused on music and drops 2 singles within that 3-month period, let's just say right now, mid-July, he's getting ready to drop an album, he drops the first single. You go to August, September, mid-October to end of October, he drops the album. I think if he does proper promo, actually focuses on it, does interviews, pushes the singles, I think 50 can do at least minimum 50,000 copies first week. Because think about it. If T.I. can do 30,000, if Ross can do, let's say, 20,000, 50's always been the bigger artist out of those two. There's no shadow of a doubt. You can look at numbers. I don't even want to talk. If you're the moron that believes Rick Ross or T.I. is a bigger artist than 50, then there's nothing I could say to you. You're just a moron. I mean, there's numbers prove otherwise, from sales, from streams to everything. From number ones, 50's bigger than, you could even argue them two combined, 50's bigger than, but that's a whole different conversation. So 50 should be able to do at least 50,000 copies. At least. And that to me would be good. That wouldn't be a huge success, and that wouldn't be a flop. That would be good. But I don't think 50's even, I think 50's scared that he won't even do those numbers. And that's why he's not giving us new music. So it's easy to clown other artists when you're the one that's not putting out any new music. But, I mean, hey, 50 is torn off of his old music. He did 103 million off his last tour, off of old music. The guy hasn't released an album in 12 years since Animal Ambition, which was in 2014 of June. That did 46,000 copies first week. But remember, back then, it was only physical CDs. Streams weren't added, so he did 46,000 in physical CDs at a time when the music industry was like struggling bad. I'm talking about like the only artists that were selling was Drake, Eminem, Adele, Taylor Swift. That's it. Like, I'm dead serious. Like, the sales for most artists were trash. And plus, with that Animal Ambition album, 50 released a song every week off the album. So the album was already available to you in full by the time the album actually came out. So that kind of impacted it. Plus, he was independent. No major label. He just signed with Capitol to distribute the album with the CD. That's it. So it's a little bit different factors in there. But I think now in today's time with streaming, if 50 dropped an album, he would do at least 50,000 to 60,000 copies first week. And to me, that would be a success. In today's climate, that would be, not success. Let me reword that, because I think a success would be 70 to 80 to, and above. But that would be good. That would be good. I wouldn't be like, that's a flop. I would be like, that's good. But yeah, that's my take on it. And I know people were like, oh, you probably expected me to clown William Roberts, a.k.a. Officer Ricky. He deserves to be clowned because of the shit he said to Drake. Because, hey, man, you're talking all this shit. Your album's barely fucking selling. It's scrapping by. And Iceman's out here doing fucking numbers every fucking week like it's nothing. So that's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think. I think 50, he can clown. He can do whatever he wants to do. No problem with that, as he should, because Ross constantly gets at him. But I don't think he should ever pay attention to this guy or really give Ross any type of attention, because the guy just doesn't deserve it. He's nowhere near 50's level. And, William Roberts, he's William Roberts. This guy's, the biggest fraud that we've seen this far. But that's my take on it. Let me know what you guys think. That's it for today's video. If you guys want to support this channel further, you can do so at patreon.com/diverse mentality. For just $3 a month, you can get my videos uncut and raw the way I intended them to be, but couldn't because of YouTube. Plus, you also get access to our Discord community, where we have a great community talking about hip hop and various other things. It's very dope. So only $3 a month. I'd really appreciate the support. Also follow us on social media at QuakeGW and at Diverse Mentality. Thank you so much for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.